one piece of evidence on one statement. Yep. I cannot press the witness, my lord. Yes, my lord. A single statement and a single piece of evidence. Most generous. Well then, Mr. Naruhodo, it's high time I fell in a dead faint. I leave this in your capable hands. Ah, Mr. Sholmes! Quick, Gregson, carry him out. Stands so insouciantly before the court in a state of such high fever. Either the man has extraordinary strength of mind or an extraordinary lack of feeling. I imagine he's feeling very little now. The detective is sleeping soundly in one of the antechambers. Strike a man when he's down, why don't you? Well then, counsel, are you fully prepared? Whew. Yes. One statement. One piece of evidence. One trial conclusion. Don't waste this final chance Usato has given me. It's going to decide the entire outcome of the trial. Very well, then. Under the terms I've outlined, you may resume the cross-examination. Oh boy, if I click the Q key even once, it's over. Alright, we're gonna just save again. You know, to be sure. Jocelyn with the broker as near the entrance, We got shot, that's fine. Peephole, that's the thing we gotta argue.
Objection!
There was no peephole! What on earth is that eccentric contraption, counsel? It's my cat flap-o-matic. It makes way for cats to go in and out of a room. It can cut through any door you can think of. Make a new little door in the middle of it. That's right, my lord. It's a device for creating so-called cat flaps. Small doors for cats to come and go as they please, with their owners having to open the main door. I'm sure we can work that out for ourselves. Ah! That cat lover's contrivance has no possible relevance to this case. Oh, really? Of course it doesn't. To start with, there was no cat flap in the pawnbroker's door. After being a keeper of cats myself, I'm afraid I fail to see what this has to do with the matter at hand. Perhaps it would help if I described its function another way then. This contraption is able to create a peephole in any door you can imagine in practically no time at all. I beg your pardon, a peephole, you say? 2 nights ago, we arrived at the scene only minutes after the murder of Mr. Windibank had taken place. That's right, according to the paperwork at the yard, it was you, your Japanese assistant, and Sholmes. Yes, the 3 of us were together. It's recently come to my attention that my assistant made use of this device at that time. Your assistant did what? There's a peephole in the storeroom door. I can attest to that. Because I looked through the peephole myself in order to see inside the locked storeroom. This is ludicrous. What are you trying to say? Of course there was a peephole in the door. It said as much in my testimony. How else could I have witnessed the crime? Yes, how could you? What? Counsel, kindly say what you mean. Right, it's time. Now to strike the final blow. What I mean is this, my lord. My assistant made the peephole in the storeroom door, and until such time as she did, the door had no hole in it to look through. What? No!
Objection!
This is a farce. Are you really suggesting the peephole in the door was... Yes, it was created only after the incident had taken place by my judicial assistant using this device. Your assistant tampered with the crime scene whilst being fully aware of the gravity of the situation. Hey, there's bot number 2. Goodbye. Thank you very much for popping in, and I hope you have a lovely day. It's a most serious act of vandalism, which I humbly apologize, my lord. In the few minutes I left the scene in order to pursue the Skulkin brothers and alert the police. Nevertheless, in light of this new information, it becomes apparent that Mr. Graben's testimony is riddled with holes. explain yourself, counsel. The majority of Mr. Graydon's testimony that appears to incriminate the defendant is based upon what he witnessed through the peephole in the storeroom door. Yes, that filthy girl shooting the man in the back. However, at the time of the incident, that peephole did not yet exist in the door. There's no possible way that you could have seen what you claim to have seen. Grr. In short, your entire testimony is a pack of lies. Ugh. Yay! We altered the crime scene. Is there any credence in this revelation? None whatsoever, as my learned friend must surely realize. Exactly! This is just some cheap trick designed to discredit me. Afraid not, sir. Of course it is. Do you seriously expect people to believe that plaything can cut through a solid wooden door? Yes, I designed it to be very powerful. It cut through even the toughest of doors. Oh, sir, I don't believe it for a second. Huh, I had a feeling you'd say that. She cut through the door of the courthouse! Well? Young lady, this is the Old Bailey! One does not make cat flaps in the oak paneling at the Old Bailey! I'm not done yet, don't worry. This doesn't mean the peephole in the storeroom door at Windibanks was made by your machine. There's no way you can prove that it was. No, but it's easy. Cat flaps my cat flap-o-matic crates are all of a fixed size. The dimensions of the peephole at Windibanks are an exact match. Ugh. Hehe, old Silky's at a loss for words. Excellent work, Iris. Thank you. And now it's my learned student's friend's turn to be lost for words, I feel. I believe your judicial assistant has already left the country for your Eastern Island home. Yes, that's true. And you may have some difficulty in establishing all of the facts. For the sake of argument, let's assume the peephole has dimensions that are a perfect fit for this contraption. In that case, when was the peephole cut? The prosecution demands proof of your answer. What is the purpose of your line of inquiry, Lord Van Zeeks? It's very simple, my lord. Vance argues the peephole was created after the incident using this device. Now the perpetrator has returned... Oh, hold on. Can we... Do the pictures have it? Hey, there it is! It's in the pictures! As long as the defense remains unable to prove when the peephole was made, my learned friend's claim amounts to nothing more than a baseless accusation. Indeed, that is so, Lord Van Zeeks. Well, counsel? I'll go now, Runo. The time to create your own opening and force your way through. Don't know if I can do this. I do know one thing. Susato-san is the greatest judicial assistant in the world. Very well, the counsel for the defense will present evidence to support the claim made. Proof the peephole in the door of Windibank Storm was created after the event and not before. I prove picture!
Take that!
What are you, a print from that detective's infernal cameras again? Your judicial assistant, Miss Susato Mikotaba, is an extremely intelligent and capable woman, which is why I never had any cause to doubt that she would have considered this scenario and made sure I had the necessary proof. And the necessary proof is this photographic print, counsel. This print shows the scene in the shop moments after the defendant entered the premises. Agreed. It also shows the accused mercilessly wielded a gun in the direction of the defenseless broker. But, more to the point, it pictures the storeroom door in the background. Let me see that print again. I don't believe it. It is quite remarkable. The door to the storeroom is devoid of any peephole of any description. Mr. Graydon, you couldn't possibly have witnessed the crime as you claim to have done, because at the time it happened, there was no peephole in the door. In other words, your testimony is a catalog of lies. Come on, do the breakdown. He's a pretty ballerina. That's it. Let's hope for a more extravagant breakdown. Satisfied, the defense has substantiated its claim beyond all reasonable doubt. Mrs. testimony was entirely fallacious. That's not the only thing we now know beyond all reasonable doubt. My learned friend's assistant's guilt can no longer be denied. The woman tampered with a crime scene. More importantly, good lord, there's more, Lord Van Zeeks? Defense may have established a reprehensible instance of perjury. That is no proof that this man is the victim's killer. But Van Zeeks, you said it yourself! I was there at the scene. It's true. And I was shot in the arm. It's true. But that's all. Yes, in fact, if you look at the circumstances, I am the victim here! Oh, please. I don't believe this. They're right. As it stands now, I don't have any definitive proof he's the culprit. Still, he can't worm his way out of it now. You know what they say? There's no point in locking the cat's door after the cat is bolted. Isn't that right? Shirley always says. One lie begets another. No, wait. That might have been a line I wrote for him in one of my stories. Not only did you give false testimony to the court, the lies you told make no sense. Make no sense? What do you mean by such a remark? What you said in your testimony reveals that you know something you should not have known. In other words, it's a fundamental inconsistency in your statements.
Objection!
This provocative talk, counsel. Won't you enlighten the court? Explain this inconsistency. Iris was right. One lie begets another. Consistency is revealed by the lies in the witness's statements. They show that Mr. Graydon had knowledge of something he should not have known anything about, namely, the bloodstains on the coat! The bloodstains that were present on Miss Lestrade's coat! That's right, the victim's blood splattered all over her when she shot him. But how could you possibly have known that? Obviously, because I saw her do it through the peephole in the... The point is not that you lied in your testimony, Mr. Graydon. It's the nature of the lie you concocted that is so revealing. You're not making any sense. Let me ask you a simple question. How is it, Mr. Graydon, that you knew of the existence of the peephole in the storeroom door? What? Oh, obviously I... Arg! Has the cat got your tongue, witness? Peephole in the door was made after the incident occurred. Once I returned to the shop, having failed to catch the two burglars, Scotland Yard's investigators arrived immediately. Since that time, the police have been at Windibanks constantly carrying out their investigation. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson? Well, yes, of course. The place is chock full of pawned articles, and my lads have to thoroughly examine them all. I give the order to have officers working around the clock in shifts so we get through it all. Consequently, there's no way that you, Mr. Graydon, could have gained access to the shop. Therefore, you should have known nothing about the peephole in the storeroom door. The fact that its existence forms the basis of your testimony is completely inexplicable.
Objection!
Yet, the fact remains that Mr. Graydon did maintain that he witnessed the crime take place through the peephole in the door. How on earth is that possible, Could I have a word, please, Lord Van Zeeks? Speak, Inspector. It's just that I really ought to be getting back to the station now to put in my report. There's really nothing more I can add to this testimony, so if it's all the same to you... Permission denied. Oh. It's not all the same to me, Inspector. Not at all. You will remain exactly where you are until this trial concludes. Of course, sir. Mr. Graydon? You should have known about the You shouldn't have known about the existence of the peephole. Which can only mean you must have been informed about it by somebody else.
Objection!
Stop there, my learned friend. You realize, I trust, that the words you just uttered have extremely serious implications. Yes. The defense believes that the details about the cases that Mr. Graydon claims to have seen must have been revealed to him by a certain person before his testimony. And in fact, considering a particular clue we have, there's really only one person that could be. Gregson, you wouldn't! Greggy? No.
Take that!
Truth is, it can only have been you, Inspector Gregson. Huh?
Objection!
Better have some proof to substantiate such a rash claim. Consider the fact, we've only been aware of Mr. Ashley Graydon's identity for the last few hours. We learned of it during the course of the trial today. Indeed, preparations for his testimony were made with great urgency during our 1-hour-long recess. The police executed the subpoena and brought the man here from the communications station. Until that time, Mr. Graydon would have had no idea, no inkling that he would suddenly be required to appear in court. Suggesting that until such time as he was summoned. Yes, my lord. Till then, it's reasonable to assume he knew nothing of the peephole. Only once Mr. Graydon was in the stand that he realized his position. He'd have to defend himself against the accusation that he was the third intruder. Or suggesting to the court that it was while this trial was in progress he received the information, so that he could commit perjury in order to save his skin. Exactly. The only person with knowledge of the investigation that he had any contact with is you, Inspector Gregson! This is a bloomin' outrage! Why would I be giving away details of our investigations to this fella, eh? Summoned to his lordship's chamber during the recess. Have you forgotten that? Quite true. I had a number of questions regarding the events that transpired at the pawnbrokery. Which means the first time these two laid eyes on one another was after proceedings resumed, and they had the little talk during Gina's cross-examination. Me too, Iris! Yeah! When Gina was testifying, they had a little secret conversation! We're finding it strange at the time. Mr. Graydon and the inspector seem to be having some kind of secret discussion. Wouldn't have been possible for you to give Mr. Graydon the information he needed then. Little toe rag, you're making all this up. I'm a respectable Scotland Yard inspector, for crying out loud. Why would I do something like that? Why would I give away confidential details to the likes of this bloke? Admittedly, you wouldn't have had any reason to do something like that for no gain. Perhaps as part of a deal of some kind. Then it starts to make more sense. What deal, Counsel? I wonder if perhaps, in exchange for details about the people at the crime scene, Mr. Graydon agrees to give you a certain something to the inspector. Sure, I need not remind the inspector that, if found to be true, striking a deal of any kind with a witness would be considered a grave case of malfeasance. Maleficence. Not maleficence. It's becoming clear that jumping in with accusations is this Japanese student's specialty. I don't do that! With the stakes so high, the prosecution is not prepared to listen to baseless charges. It's incumbent on the defense now to present evidence in support of this diabolical claim. Evidence? So what are you proposing that the inspector demanded of the witness in return? The court must seek proof of this alleged deal. Hello, music disc! Inspector Gregson really did strike a deal with Mr. Graydon. And logically, there's only one thing he could have asked for. That must be it! Now, do you think it could be? Yes. Missing link that would join all the dots together in the puzzle. Must press you for an answer now, Counsel. What evidence explains the nature of this alleged deal Inspector Gregson made with the witness? It's the music disc, right?
Take that!
Inspector Gregson. Besides this murder, is it not true you've been working on another very important case? What? Are you getting at now, sunshine? It's possible that this other top-secret case is what's alluded to in this newspaper article here. The classified secrets being leaked overseas from the Ministry of Justice. How the bleeding Nora could you? We discovered, during the course of this trial, the music box deposited at Windibanks by Magnus McGilded, A special music box designed to play 2 discs at once. It seems very likely now, encoded on the pair of discs that were in Mr. McGilded's possession are the leaked classified secrets. So I put it to you, Inspector, that in order to recover the second of the discs containing those secrets, you covertly made a deal with Mr. Graydon, which you exchanged the disc for the details of the case. You little... Ah! Show us the discs! Come on, Gregson! I had more faith in you than this! I trusted you! And at Windibanks, you said this. I'll be taking that whatever it is of McGilded down to the yard, thank you very much, so hand it over! No, don't give it to him. It's mine, that is. Mine! Sorry, miss. Anything belonging to McGilded has to be taken in as evidence now. Scotland Yard already knew at that time, isn't that right? Agnes McGilded was involved in the stealing of government secrets. My orders were, cover the medium used to convey the secrets leaked from the ministry, and do it on the QT, strictly hush-hush. That explains why, when I presented this disc as evidence to the court, you objected so heavily, I presume. Because you knew that it contained highly confidential information. Blimey, not likely. I mean, I wasn't that sure of it myself. Realize there's a possibility, that's all. Inspector, surely you're not saying that in order to acquire the second of these music box discs, you intended to reveal confidential details of the crime scene to the witness? To aid and abet this man in giving false testimony? No other way Mr. Graydon could have known the existence of the peephole. It's the only explanation. A deal was struck between these 2 men. Oh, God! Gregson, you're no gumshoe. If, and I stress if, this sobering assertion turns out to be found in truth, I mean that the second disc is, as we speak, in this very courtroom. Wait, what? In this room? How could you possibly make a claim like that? As Inspector Gregson is a Scotland Yard detective. What? What's that supposed to mean, eh? The seasoned policeman, the inspector will have approached this alleged deal with caution. Certainly, he would not have accepted the gentleman's agreement in this matter. No, he would have insisted on having the article agreed upon in the palm of his hand. Good gracious, then, you mean to say Inspector Gregson already has the item in question in his possession? He has the second disc actually on his person?
Yes!
Reds demands the inspector is searched at once. Definitely. Could only have struck a deal with each other when Ginny was testifying. Gregsy hasn't moved from the witness stand since. My lord, please, order an examination of his personal effects immediately. Well, Inspector? This young lad wants to tone down his imagination. He's insulted me and my profession quite enough. However, put this matter to bed and dispel any doubts about my involvement. I'll happily submit to a body search. What? Presume you're aware of the precipice on which you now teeter, my learned student friend. Made a most serious allegation against Scotland Yard here. If, following the search of the inspector's personal effects, no disc is found, you'll be deemed unfit for court service, and this trial will end. My country's government will formally demand of yours you are severely reprimanded. That sounds serious. Indeed, to have a visiting student make such a defamatory remarks about our country's most senior police force is not something Her Majesty's government will be able to overlook. You're just threatening Bruno because you're scared. The accusation is beyond serious. You must be prepared for grave consequences. Gregsy! In the off chance the game tries to convince me to do the wrong option, I'm going to save. It must have physically changed hands, but the inspector should have it. Somehow, something doesn't feel quite right here. Very well, counsel. You know the implications, so let me ask you one final time. Yes, my lord? You'll persist on formally requesting a search of the inspector's personal effects? Who else can we have? Who else can we search? Who has he been in contact? Chomps? No. He wouldn't trust Chomps. The Bobby? Search someone else. Wouldn't be here unless that's the right thing to do, right? Defense formally demands the search be conducted. Well, don't say you weren't warned. Your typical Japanese stubbornness may well land you in hot water this time. Perhaps the lesson will do you some good. Fair enough. I've got nothing to hide. Very well then. Bailiff, conduct a search of the inspector's personal...
Objection!
God damn it. What? Oh no, Inspector, not you. Somebody else. What's the meaning of this, eh? Lost it at last, have you, sunshine? Thank you, Ayers, for yelling at people. That's the British way! Well said. Well said, young lady. Indeed, this court is in awe of the defense counsel's conviction and eagerly awaits his next words. You what? Now don't be hasty, my lord. I'm mistaken about the things I've seen in court today. Fairly sure I know who has that disc at the moment. There's only one person it could be. Counsel, of whom do you request this search now? Well, jeez, there's... I don't think it's one of the Nashes. No! Gregson! You put it on Nash! But just to be safe, in case it's actually on McLiar Pants.
Take that!
Of my lord, Mr. Nash Gulkin! Well, I never... Me? Him? Very well then. Bailiff, restrain the witness and conduct a thorough search of his personal effects. Please, my lord. Inspector? Scotland Yard has to object to this
Objection!
search. Unfortunately for you, Inspector, your objections carry no weight here. In this courtroom, only the prosecution and the defense have the authority to object. But Lord Van Zeeks, I have no idea what forces are in play that might influence your actions. But personally, I have no intention of obstructing the course of this trial. Thank you, Van Zeeks. Bailiff, carry out the search. Now, hold on a mo. I don't know nothing. Nothing about no disc. Cut it out! Ah, here, my lord. In the witness's pocket. I found this. Well, Gregson. Another music box disc. Don't know nothing about it. Nothing. Well, Gregson and Graydon. As the second music box disc left behind by Magnus McGilded. Is it not, Inspector Gregson? Urg. Arg! Order! Mr. Skulkin, what do you have to say for yourself? Gordon Bennett! Just Gordon Flamin' Bennett! I swear I didn't know nothing about that disc, honest to God! Counsel, would you please explain what exactly is going on here? Alleged deal was struck between this witness and this detective, no? Without question, my lord. Then for pity's sake, why on earth was this man in possession of the disc? Thank you, Momomo Meow, for following. Very much appreciated. We are going to shake this guy down because Gregson is a shrewd, calculating man who hid the disc on the dude. Ah. It was, yes, during my cross-examination of Mr. Graydon. Tell me, Mr. Graydon, when you left the pawnbroker that night, by any chance with the second disc in your jacket pocket? I admit to nothing of the sort. Mr. Graydon answered my questions. The inspector appeared to have grabbed Nash Skulkin by his coat and was shaking him violently. Yeah, he did it all. Thought me noggin was gonna fall clean off, I did. Was wishing I'd been born as me brother I was. What exactly happened to make the detective attack you like that? I ain't got a clue. He just suddenly turned and grabbed me whistle and started shaking me. The blazes did you mention the third gun? We had down by the station, that's what he said. Held it right down the ear hole he did. Me head's still throbbing now. The way the detective behaved back then was extremely out of character. Looking back now, it must have been then that he did it. That was the opportunity Inspector Gregson created for himself in order to hide the disc. Well, bless my wig, he hid it! I'm afraid I failed to comprehend the motive here. The detective had acquired the disc he was after. Why on earth would he proceed to hide it in another man's pocket? This is a court of law. He could have submitted the item as evidence. It would appear, my lord, that the inspector was not at liberty to do that. Why ever not? As the man himself revealed earlier, his current assignment has some special conditions. My orders were, recover the medium used to convey the secrets leaked from the ministry, and do it on the QT, strictly hush-hush. Hush-hush, a top-secret assignment, is it? As far as we're aware, the information stolen comes from confidential government communications. It seemed that if that information were to be revealed in court as evidence, it would be problematic. Does that sum up the situation, Inspector? Operating under direct orders from the ministry. Afraid I'm not at liberty to answer that question. So, realizing there was a chance he may be searched here in court, took steps to hide the disc you had acquired from the witness. What does this mean? Well, he pretended to attack Mr. Skulkin in order to get close enough to him, slipped the second disc into his pocket. Which was all a pretense? Gregson, you conniving punk! Well now, Inspector Gregson, and you, Mr. Graydon. Are you prepared to admit the accusations made against you of this alleged deal? Admit to it, yours truly, please. Mr. Graydon, clearly our Eastern visitor has an uncommonly active imagination. However, there's no proof I passed that disc to the inspector. But then, how do you explain the reason why you knew about the peephole? Under no obligation to explain. What? Yes, I lied in my testimony. That I admit. So sentence me accordingly. That is all I admit. Murder, leaking government secrets, striking a deal with the detective, all of it is this young Eastern man's fantasy. I have no idea what any of this is about. You what? Just when I think the trial's almost over, they slap me with another hour of trial. Well, what about you then, Inspector Gregson? You admit to making a deal with Mr. Graydon in order to acquire the disc? Ladies and gents of the jury, Scotland Yard Inspector, I will declare this and nothing more. I am acting in the best interests of the country. Whatever I've done, it's been in the name of justice. So, as members of the public on this fine country, I'd like to think that justice will be your guiding light when you're making your decisions. But he's a Russian! This is quite a quandary indeed. Rarely have I encountered such extraordinary tumultuousness in the concluding of a trial. Nevertheless, in the absence of any further evidence to be presented, it is time that we put the matter into the jury for the final leanings. Well now, as fellow servant to the Queen of my country, I must say I sympathize with the old inspector. Yes, he's a dependable man, I'm quite sure. In service, one becomes a good judge of character. Even crossing your eyes doesn't help when it comes to looking at this case. It's all blurred to me. Well, as a fellow professional, I'd like to put my faith in the detective, really. Graydon is highly skilled operator. Stop. Currently in presence of idol. Stop. Detective has very much trust in eyes. More than this, I cannot say. I don't believe it. The 6 jurors are. They're going to believe Gregson. They declared a decision now. Ginny is going to be found guilty? I managed to produce some definitive evidence right now, then we're going to lose. Some proof that Graydon killed Mr. Windibank or stole the government secrets. There's some evidence to force Gregson into admitting he struck a deal with the witness. What do we have? We've got a manuscript. What's in the manuscript? That's the only evidence that's left. Oh, sweet baby Jesus. With the judge calling the jurors to announce their leanings, Gina will be found guilty. No choice then. I have to throw some more evidence at them. All it comes down to this. Who do I present evidence against? Gregson or Graydon? Greggy! Inspector Gregson, there's one final piece of evidence I would like you to see. Huh? What's that then? Refuse to acknowledge that you did in fact strike a deal with the witness here today. Leave us no choice but to examine this piece of evidence thoroughly. Well, go on. Final piece of evidence to get this detective to admit the deal he clearly struck with the manuscript!
Take that!
What on earth is this, counsel? Irrefutable proof, my lord, of the corrupt dealings that went on between these two men. Or perhaps irrefutable proof of the corrupt working. Oh, did we? Damn it! That was wrong! Stage of the proceedings, I would have expected more. What am I missing here? It's not the manuscript? Then what is it? There's nothing else on this note, is there? Oh lord, I'm missing something important, aren't I? Shoot, what am I supposed to do? Straight to business. Wait, we have the second disc. So it's either the music box or the disc. Alright, hold on. Let's just save here. Because if it's not the disc, it's the box.
Take that!
Is that Mr. McGilded's music box disc? Yes, the first disc of 2, which has already been played in Mr. McGilded's special music box, ready to play. I think now would be a good time to listen to the sound produced by the music box again. Only this time, with the second disc set in place at well. Goodness, this disc council? Oh wait, I can't let you do that. Why not? Because because it's got nothing to do with this case. That's why.
Objection!
Not true, Inspector. Defense has already proposed that the sounds heard by the court earlier in this music box are part of a Morse code message. Now that Morse code comprises of 2 distinct tones. Defense believes that the second disc contains the second tone needed to complete the message. Now we have a chance to confirm that theory. We're talking about state secrets here. If you go lend the whole courtroom your confidential information like that, it's treason. Then do you admit the charge? That in order to protect the state secrets, you engaged in unlawful dealings with the witness. You're mad! Let that secret information out to the public domain. You'll be making an enemy of the entire British government, you idiot! Let's not forget, Inspector, that you, a Scotland Yard officer, leaked confidential case details to a witness. That you continue to lie to the court. All because, by fair means or foul, you're determined to do your duty. Well, by fair means or foul, I'm prepared to do mine. Don't you dare! I will stop at nothing to protect my client. I don't care who I make an enemy of. A toast. Lord, if you please, the court must hear the sounds made by that music box. Come on, man, Zeeks, for Pete's sake, stop him!
Objection!
Inspector, you should know my methods by now. I'm a prosecutor. I'm no Scotland Yard puppet. Urgh! In this courtroom, my duty is to the law, so let me propose a toast to uncovering the truth. By fair means or foul. Ha ha! Yes, he's on our side against Gregson. Very well, the defense stands here, and that of the prosecution is made very clear, I feel. Therefore, in accordance with the defense's request, the court will now listen to this music box, as this music box is set in operation once more. Now's your last chance, Gregson! This time with the second disc in place, and both discs playing simultaneously. This is gonna feel so good. Listen to that. It's unmistakable now. It's Morse code! Alright, I admit it! Whatever you want, for the love of God! Shut that bloomin' box up! Thank you, Gregson! This is a long court case. Let me ask you again then, Inspector Gregson. Did you, or did you not, strike a deal with the witness next to you in the stand, Mr. Ashley Graydon? Specifically, did you furnish the witness with confidential case details in exchange for the music box disc? Did you reveal the existence of the peephole in the pawnbroker's storeroom door, Inspector? I did. Stop! What are you doing, man? It's all exactly like the young Eastern lawyer said. The trial resumed after the recess, and we were stood here in the stand together. That's when he approached me with the deal. Shut up, you imbecile! Shut up! Psst, you there. You're the detective who turned up at the pawnbrokery the other day, aren't you? May have something you're looking for, Inspector, with me at this very moment. So how about a trade? I suggest you accept. Information that may make certain individuals uncomfortable will soon become very public indeed. Couldn't let that information become public knowledge, not under any circumstances. Accepted the man's proposal and told him details about the case that should have put him in the clear. That peephole in the storeroom door and the bloodstains on the overcoat. Giving false testimony, this witness intended to have the defendant wrongly accused of murder. Inspector, you knew that, yet you still revealed these details to facilitate the witness's perjury. I did. Then it turned out the peephole had only been made that night after the incident took place. Scotland Yard wasn't aware of that, if I'm perfectly honest. Oh, Mr. Graydon, what do you have to say for yourself? Ugh. Nothing and no one left for you to hide behind. You struck a deal with the inspector in order to escape conviction of a very serious crime. Namely this. You are the third intruder who broke into the pawnbrokery on the night in question. And you perpetrated the murder of the proprietor, Mr. Pop Windibank. You. Show me a proper... Oh my god! Traitor! Show me a proper breakdown. No, Gregson! Gregson! He's choking out Gregson! He spit out a fry! Let go of Gregson! Bailiff! Bailiff! Restrain that man! At once! That's it then. It's all over. Wait for it. Uh-oh. What did we miss? I despised my life growing up. Those slums are a vile place. I was cursed from birth, born into poverty, the son of a penniless artisan. My parents did nothing but quarrel all day long. What little money they had was never spent on me. I set about studying to better myself, to one day escape from that hellhole. Eventually became a communications officer. I admire your determination. Then you decided to try to sell government secrets? Why? Isn't it obvious? Because I wanted money. Even now, years later, the nightmares of my life in the slums wake me up in the small hours. Wanted to drown them out. More money than anyone who lived in that squalor could ever imagine. Then one day I met him. Mr. Magnus McGilded. You're a fiend with quar talent, you are. I've money to throw your way if you're interested. All you need to do is go along with me little plan now. I was to steal the Ministry of Telegraphic Message Logs, and McGilded would buy them for a handsome sum. I was responsible for the inspections of the Ministry's communication office. It was a simple enough task. The lure of the devil's offering, how easy it is to succumb. But you must surely have realized the seriousness of the crime you were committing. For that reason, I took great lengths to ensure that my actions were untraceable. By using the music box. My father was a brickmaker, though my mother divorced him when I was still a child. Yes, Mr. Mason Milverton. That's right. He's very skilled with his hands. Once been a music box maker's apprentice. Imagine his skill would be sufficient to create a machine that could generate Morse code. I sought out my father again to employ his services. It was the first time I'd seen him since I left the slums 10 years earlier. Look at you, Ashley. What a fine gent you've become, eh? He's a different man to the one in my memory. A thin, frail old man. Poverty had never broken him, never corrupted him like it had me. Sure, he wouldn't help me if I told him the real reason, so I made up a story. I've got some work for you, Father. I need some music box discs made. Music box discs, eh? A musician friend of mine has written some music he wants to sell to the public. Brought the score with me. There are two, actually. I'd be delighted, son. It's been 20 years since I did any work like this, though. Fetch my tools, would you? They're in the loft. That's how I had to make the two discs. Thereby splitting the information in two, and taking considerable precautions indeed, to protect myself as much as anything. It meant I could deal with McGilded in two separate transactions. The first involved the first of two discs and the music box for playing them. Exchanged them with Mr. McGilded for 10 guineas. Then, on receipt of the second disc, he would pay 1,000 guineas. So, what happened on the omnibus 2 months ago? Was the second part of the deal? Exchange of the second disc? Yes. Sold the man information that was that way a number of times already. Seems he became reluctant to part with his money. That doesn't quite make sense, Mr. Graydon. Why was it that on the omnibus 2 months ago, your father, Mr. Milverton, was the one dealing with Mr. McGilded, and not yourself? I received 1,000 guineas after my first completed dealings with Mr. McGilded. Decided to give 200 to my father for his troubles. My father realized something was amiss. At the time, he worked out I must be involved in something dubious. And when he did, he said to me, "Next time there's an exchange, you'll let your old man do it, understand? Otherwise, I won't take your money anymore." That was my father's way of dealing with it, I suppose. Climb into the omnibus, head over the second disc, and take the money from the Gilded. That's it. He had no idea what was actually on the disc I'd asked him to make. He never knew. Just like I'll never know why everything went so horribly wrong that night. All I know is that the disc was taken from him, and he never returned home. It's only then that I found out what sort of monster McGilded really was. After 10 years of not uttering it, I swore on my father's name. To extract revenge. Revenge? How? He's dead! As anyone with the remotest knowledge of the man will no doubt be able to imagine, McGilded brought all his wealth and influence to bear in the most despicable of ways. To crush any semblance of justice in his trial. You lit the fire? Crime scene was tempered, evidence was fixed, and witnesses were bribed. That trial 2 months ago was a farce from start to finish. We could barely touch British soil back then. I walked into that hornet's nest completely unaware of the sinister background to it. I made plenty of money out of my dealings with McGilded by then. I spared nothing in my arrangements 2 months ago. I knew exactly who to hire. Willing to pay the price, there are people in the city willing to do anything you ask. McGilded himself has shown me that. Are you saying that? I think you have the picture now, after he twisted everything to his favor in this court to ensure he walked free. I took matters into my own hand and delivered the justice that monster deserved. You burned the omnibus! Tragic accident following the trial 2 months ago. It was planned and executed by yours truly. McGilded's death that day was caused by this man. Everything is ready, sir. Follow me into the courtroom. What's this, officer? 'Tis sooner than I was led to believe. Hope it's not inconvenient, sir. There's some changes to the schedule. Well, I must be making tracks now. It's time for the inspection. I'm going to examine the omnibus again, so I'm told. I asked if I could be present for it myself. It's that policeman who came to tell Mr. McGilded he could examine the omnibus again. That's right, an imposter, hired by me. McGilded used his wealth to manipulate the trial. He paid people to adulterate the omnibus with all manner of false evidence. He threatened witnesses to lie in their testimony. So I gave the man a taste of his own medicine. Once the omnibus was doused in paraffin, one of my sham policemen ushered McGilded inside and sent him on a one-way journey to hell. An eye for an eye. That's how I avenged my father's death. Spine-chilling account indeed. That wasn't the end of it for me. There is a loose end, you see. A loose end. Yes, I should think it's obvious. The second disc, which my father had taken to exchange with McGilded. Ah, yes. There was indeed no mention of it in the man's trial 2 months ago, clearly because it had been removed from the scene of the crime. I realized it was missing. I remembered something. Something from the first time I dealt with McGilded. This is the first of 2 discs. The music box needs to play them. Well, look at that now. Ingenious little invention. So then, as promised, 10 guineas for you, young man. What's this? Windibank's pawnbrokery. Aye, it is a pawnbroker's ticket service. Use it to redeem an article at deposit there for me. There's no need to give a name. Just hand over the ticket and tell the fiend the watchword. Put a jewel in pawn for it. You'll fetch a good 10 guineas if you sell it, so I heard of pawnbrokery being used quite that way before. Have you not, Mr. Graydon? Pawnbrokeries are very useful places now. Each one is like an extremely secure vault. Ah, you don't say! I'm gonna go watch the opening to the 3rd case again. Knew that if he'd taken steps to hide the disc, it'd be in that pawnbrokery somewhere. On the night he killed my father, he must have entrusted the ticket to someone. Yes, to Gina. I remember now. That's when we first met you at Windibanks that afternoon 2 days ago. I had a description of Miss Lestrade written down. How did you know you were looking for her? From the trial, the pickpocket's testimony was clearly peculiar. Anyone could see that. I realized immediately she was another McGilda's pawns. She must have threatened her somehow. I was fairly convinced it would be her who had the ticket. I started to make some inquiries. A strong suspicion the girl would come out of the woodwork to her on the redemption deadline. He's absolutely right. And yes, sure enough, she did. All I needed to do was wait until the girl went to Windibanks to redeem the articles. But unfortunately, she redeemed only McGilda's overcoat, and the one disc that was in its pocket. The all-important music box with the second disc inside was missing, because it had already been forfeited 2 days earlier. I was unaware of that fact. Had I not been, I could have avoided my nighttime excursion. Meanwhile, as our investigation got to the stolen government secrets was progressing, I picked up on the fact McGilda was involved. Inspector, you've recovered. Our orders were to recover the stolen information as quickly as possible. We started gathering the fellow's possessions and examining whatever we could lay our hands on. A full-scale investigation going on at the yard. We had to keep it as quiet as we could. Then, when the inspector here took the disc from me in the pawnbrokery that day, I became nervous. Sure, the music box and the second disc were still there in the shop somewhere, so I knew it was a race against time. I had to find those articles before the police did. So that's what prompted you to break into the place that same night. With the help of your old friends, the Skulkin brothers. What happened that night in the pawnbrokery, I can only describe as a nightmare. Nash and Ringo were searching the counter, located the music box I'd sold to Mr. McGilda on the shelves, and the second disc was inside. Yes, I slipped it into my pocket with a very deep sigh of relief. Then, something entirely unexpected happened. What are you doing in my shop? Gunshot rang out in the shop. I felt a sharp pain in my left arm. The broker fired his gun, and the bullet pierced your limb. Yes, exactly, but unfortunately, I decided to bring my own gun with me that night, just in case. Before I knew what was happening, I'd fired back. The man had already turned to flee. I hadn't intended to fire in his direction, much less kill him. But unfortunately for both of us, the bullet hit home. It struck him in the middle of his back as he fled through the storeroom door for refuge. Sorry tale. All took place in the blink of an eye. Don't imagine Nash and Ringo even realized what had happened at first. I was terrified, so I fled. And that's the whole story. That's everything that happened at Windibanks on that wretched night. Woohoo! Well, jurists, look like you were wrong. This guy's the guilty one. Earlier, you called McGilda a monster, a man who used his wealth and influence to distort the facts and escape justice for the crime of murder. What tragic irony, for what you have done is exactly the same. You've become the very monster you saw and despised so deeply in McGilda. Yes, I think I have. This is a long trial. Well, this has been a long and exhausting trial. However, it would seem that at last we have arrived at the truth. Inspector Gregson, what of Mr. Ashley Graydon? He's been restrained, my lord. He's being escorted to the yard. He's charged with the murder of Mr. Windibank, the stealing of government secrets, and not the murder of McGilda. You, Inspector, regrettably, you'll have to face charges yourself. Yes, my lord, of course. It transpires you were complicit in helping a criminal escape justice. That fact remains, whether or not you were doing so in the line of duty. The crime is a serious one, Inspector, and inexcusable. Now, to the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. Ah, yeah? It's time for the final education. Is the jury ready, Mr. Foreman? Yes, sir! Garrett Squadron, standing by, sir. This really is it now. The last push, the final call, the finishing whistle. My men are ready to deliver their verdicts. Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Very well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I will now declare your final decisions to the court.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
Not guilty.
How nice of the Russian spy to vote not guilty. Again. Woohoo! We tipped the scales of justice yet again. Ha ha ha, that's the stuff. I'm off the hook! Finally, we finally managed to do it. Finally is the word. I wasn't sure we'd come out on top for a while there. She was right, you're the best lawyer in the world. Miss Lestrade, not finished with you yet. Eh? What? What are you looking at me like that for? Before you start enjoying your freedom, there are certain other crimes to consider. Eh? 2 months ago, in my courtroom, no less, you gave false testimony, did you not? In relation to the trial today, not only did you unlawfully enter Windibank's pawnbrokery, you also attempted to abscond with Mr. McGilded's property. Eh? Never done nothing of the sorts. Of course not. It's not like you were gleefully wearing McGilded's coat in your cell yesterday. Ah, just when I was getting excited about throwing a party for Ginny this evening. Turning our attention to the defense. Determining that, when played together, the music box disc contained a message in Morse code was... Well, it was certainly a most unexpected revelation, counsel. Quite so, my lord. The prosecution was caught entirely off guard. In fact, I think we should applaud my learned friend's courage here today. I propose a toast. To demanding that government secrets be disseminated before the entire courtroom. Yay! Very sorry about that. It's the only way I could get Inspector Gregson to admit what he'd done, so... If I may say something on that point, isn't that... It's, about the sounds produced by the music box before. I do wonder, that was really Morse code at all. What? What are you saying, madam? Oh, well, just that I'm really rather fanatical when it comes to Morse code, you see. So much so the whole world seems to be covered in dots and dashes to me, in fact. Goodness, madam, an unhealthy level of obsession one feels. They say, in my opinion, the sounds produced by those two discs are nothing more than that. A meaningless series of two different tones. What? What? Can that really be? It wasn't Morse code after all? Lord, the defense would like to listen to the music box again. Are you off with your nut? How many times do I have to tell you? Those just contain ministerial secrets. This courtroom is not an appropriate forum to discuss the nature of the government communications. We know McGilded conspired to trade national secrets with our enemies. Secrets acquired from Mr. Graydon. Now that the man has admitted to his crimes, we have no need to pursue the matter further. Ah, it's really going to bother me. Caramel. Miss Lestrade. Yeah, me lord? What you've seen here today in this courtroom has been extremely disturbing. Falsified evidence, intimidation, perjury, a grim catalogue of depravity. An appalling experience to befall any child. Come on, it ain't nothing I don't see most days in the back slums. I beg your pardon? If you're weak, you pay for it. That's just how life goes. Gina. Well look, I reckon I've worked something out today. The world ain't fair. If you want it to change, you've got to start at home. You got to change how you are yourself. Oh, that's a very laudable lesson, I would say. I eagerly look forward to the born-again Miss Lestrade never gracing my courtroom with her presence again. Now, with regard to the murder of Mr. Pup Windibank, proprietor of a pawnbrokery business on Baker Street, I hereby declare the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, not guilty! Woohoo! Fireworks! Pew 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 pew! Woo! The 7th firework! I didn't know that shot fireworks. That is all. The court is adjourned.